Every morning, you open your closet and make a choice. But that decision was actually made for you years in advance by a global pipeline. A brilliant business strategy is worthless if the clothes are ugly, and the most breathtaking artistic design will sit rotting in a warehouse if no one knows how to sell it. The industry survives by balancing these two extremes. This charts a garment's fashion cycle. It begins with an introduction phase where a style is exclusive. It then enters the rise, accelerating into mainstream production before hitting a saturation point. Finally, consumers get bored, and the item slides into decline and ultimate rejection. Timing this biological-like life cycle is a brand's ultimate survival metric. If a company produces 1 million units of a sweater that has already hit the rejection phase, they are manufacturing for a dead market. So where did these cycles originate? Historically, the industry followed the trickle-down theory. Highly exclusive, expensive couture designs originate in Paris or Milan, and manufacturers slowly copy those aesthetics, diluting them down to affordable price points for the mass market. Over the last few decades, we've seen the exact opposite occur, the trickle-up theory. Raw, authentic street culture and youth movements invent a specific look, which luxury design houses then absorb and push upward onto the runway. Regardless of where a style starts, its survival depends on demographics. Data analysts scrutinize the age, gender, location, and income of potential buyers to filter out localized quirks and determine which looks can actually scale globally. This shows how demographic data plays out in real sales. A sharp, narrow spike represents a fad, a loud style that sweeps the market rapidly but dies out almost immediately. The stable, horizontal plateau is a classic, a basic item maintaining reliable demand year after year. Raw demographic data acts as the absolute judge. By looking at exactly who is buying what and where, analysts predict whether a cultural movement is a fleeting fad to be ignored or a permanent economic staple to invest in. Before any of that data matters, the physical product has to be created. Inside the studio, a designer's job is to translate abstract cultural trends into reality using 4 core elements of design. Shape and texture act as the physical building blocks. Looking at this specific garment, the sleeveless outline dictates its silhouette, while the raised geometric pyramids provide the surface texture, giving the fabric a distinct physical weight. The remaining elements, line and color, manipulate the wearer's visual interest and psychological response. Seams, pleats, and dye choices direct where the eye travels and dictate the emotional mood of the piece. Designers enforce specific principles like proportion, balance, and rhythm. These are the mathematical rules used to organize patterns, scale details, and balance the visual weight on the left and right sides of the body. A garment works aesthetically when these strict principles are applied to perfectly constrain and harmonize the raw elements of design into something a human being can comfortably and confidently wear. Once the designer finalizes the art, the fashion merchandiser takes over. They are the scientific counterpart tasked with turning that aesthetic creation into scalable profit. This flowchart maps an 8-step merchandising workflow. It begins with range development, fashion forecasting, and design development. Next, the team creates sample developments, initiates sourcing for bulk materials, and locks in production planning. Finally, the workflow requires negotiations for buying and global distribution. To mitigate immense financial risk across this entire pipeline, merchandisers operate under 3 golden rules: the right merchandise and quantities, at the exact right time and place, and priced to move. Without this rigid, data-driven workflow, a designer's creative vision would never financially survive the long journey from the drafting table to the consumer's hands. The retail floor is the exact physical location where the designer's art and the merchandiser's business plan finally collide. Once the inventory arrives, brands deploy visual merchandising. This is a psychological toolset designed to silently guide a shopper's physical journey and behavior as they navigate the store. This diagram illustrates spatial strategies like the rule of 3 and pyramid techniques. By arranging products into a stacked triangular grouping, the odd numbers create a dynamic balance that naturally forces your eye to focus directly on the apex item. Retailers then layer in color theory to evoke emotional responses. direct intense lighting to highlight specific textures, and utilize careful product zoning to encourage you to buy multiple complementary items at once. The simple act of pulling a shirt off a rack might feel spontaneous, but you are actually participating in the final step of a massive global engine, the ultimate synthesis of creative artistic expression and calculated economic science.